Mondelez Snack Insights, Ronald McDonald NFTs, and DoorDash the Bank. That's all ahead on this week's Monday Minute. Monday Minute works like this. We're going to ask each other 5 questions about 5 headlines from the last week's news. Are you ready? Let's go.
The first question is for you, Carl. Mondelez released a report on snacking, which had some interesting statistics in it. Share with us the highlights.
Let's do this. Let me bring up a few of the pictures here, Meredith, because I think this is a really interesting report that Mondelez have pulled together here. I've got a whole bunch of different things I'd like to point out to everyone. First of all, look at this, a rising appetite for functional snacks. You can see here just on some of these items where they're saying what was sought for in 2020 relative to what is being sought for in the next few years. Vitamin rich, boosting immunity, things that are high in protein. Just goes to show the way in which people are making choices, not just for what they have for their lunch and their dinner, but also for snacks, is actually increasing. They're wanting to eat healthier. And what really struck me here was this opportunity potentially for restaurants to think about using snacks as a way of perhaps building the basket, not just for the meal for now, but also the meal for later. So that was one particular thing I thought was worthwhile pointing out. The other one here is look at this omni-channel expectations. This blew me away. Rising sources of snack consumption, percentage shot more in food the last year, 28% through delivery apps. Wow, right? That's really crazy. When you look at my old industry here of convenience stores, which was a huge thing of 17%, it just shows you that people are now thinking about delivery apps across more than just the primary kind of food occasions. And then if we go a couple more down here, social snacking. 52% have said, I've talked about a food trend I saw on social media at the dinner table in the last year. So again, when you look at these items and the way in which food is existing through social channels, it goes to show the importance of being able to have that conversation about your restaurant through those same social channels. And last but not least, because I recognize this is called the Monday Minute, so we have to be rather brief, is this thing around broader consciousness. And we've talked about packaging before, but take a look at this. Waste packaging, waste production methods, fair labor practices. This is growing in people's consciousness around the types of items they choose to eat. So for me, really worthwhile report. I encourage everyone to download and have a look at Mondelez insights here, because I think what we can learn from snacks, we can apply to plenty more different aspects within the food world. All right, so let me turn that off and bring us back in here. And I've got the second question for you, Meredith. 3 words. DoorDash the Bank? What is that?
I know. Wow, it's a very interesting one. So DoorDash has announced a program where they will functionally lend against future orders to qualifying restaurants. They'll have a partner who's actually executing the financing and providing the capital, but it's very fascinating to me, first of all, that restaurants need this money. They said they had like an 80% net promoter score, which is off the charts for this program, meaning that restaurants who are in the trial really, really liked it. And I think that shows just what difficult straits restaurants have been in particular the independents for the last 2 years as we've gone through the pandemic. The program does not come without cost, although it is interest-free. There is a 10% fee that is charged. And then as the orders are fulfilled on DoorDash, DoorDash basically just keeps that money and recoups it to pay back the loan. So what restaurants are doing here is paying a 10% fee, which depending on how long they keep the money for might actually be an exorbitant interest rate. And then they're getting enough money to pay whatever immediate bill they have, which is great for them, given the situations that they're in, and doesn't go against their personal finances, which we've talked about in the past. For many independent restaurants, they're using, a second mortgage on their home or putting a personal guarantee on their lease or something like that in order to pay the bills. So that's good. But the fact that they need this money in the first place, not so good. The fact that, if they only use it for 6 months, it might actually be a 20% interest rate. Not great. And the fact that then it stacks on top of the DoorDash fee means that they might be fulfilling the food at some future date for negative profit on that food at the future date. So all of that, not awesome. But when I say that, I don't mean it's not awesome of DoorDash to do this. I mean, it's not awesome that restaurants are in that position to begin with. And it has been a very difficult 2 years. There are a lot of independent restaurants who did not get what they needed to make it through those 2 years. And this program represents, DoorDash trying to help them, but frankly, desperation on the parts of restaurants who've really been through the ringer. All right, next question for you, Carl. So Yum released their Q4 earnings, and in the earnings call, they talked a lot about 3 recent technology acquisitions that they've made and how impactful those have been and how they're rolling out throughout the system. Can you talk a little bit about those 3 companies?
If you're anything like me, I love listening in or reading the reports. And the first thing, it's got nothing to do with your question, actually. They opened 4,200 restaurants in a single year, Meredith.
4,200. I know.
I think that's blows my mind. I mean, the main number, of course, was 7% same store sales growth, but I was really blown away by that number. It was actually in Chris Turner, the CFO, that actually perked my attention when he spoke of something called the unmatched operating capability growth driver. And he broke it down into 3 things: easy experiences, easy operations, and easy insights. And he pinned a bunch of it associated to some technology acquisitions and the innovations behind it. So he touched on something called TikTok, not TikTok, TikTok, under the easy experience piece, Dragontail, and something called Hutbot for the easy operations, and Kvantum, I think is the way you say it, for easy insights. So let me just touch on those 3. TikTok is a digital ordering channel. They've expanded this chat ordering interface across 2,000 different restaurants. So that I thought was pretty cool, as another way of being able to give people a chance to order through a different type of interface. And I'm guessing that's appearing in both social feeds as well as through text messaging. Dragontail is around optimizing food prep processes and also delivery routing. Obviously, a lot of AI involved in that. And then Hutbot is a coaching app that's providing guidance to team members on how to enhance their customer experience and do various different things around just routine optimization, a bit like Jolt, if anyone's been familiar with that through the conference circuit. And of course, anything around that is then helping speed of service. The other thing I thought was interesting was KFC. Their digital sales in the US grew by 70% year on year through their delivery channel and e-commerce platform. But they launched that in early 2021. So it surprised me a bit because that sounded a little late in many ways. They also talked about this thing called Quick Pickup, which was the cubbies inside of the restaurant so that people can come in and grab orders. But I was a little underwhelmed by that, if I'm honest, because I was thinking, well, that's great. That's a very good practice. Everyone needs to do it. But I also would invite certainly the smaller restaurants, the smaller chains out there to get some heart from this, in the sense of saying, look, if it takes a brand of KFC size to be able to just be getting into this space, it's also something for you guys to realize it's okay. There is a time it takes to do these things. And I guess also, Meredith, with our big company background, we know that doing something seemingly small in such a large chain is actually a huge achievement as well. Lastly, Kvantum, it's another AI-based analytics tool. It's helping consumer insights and marketing insights. And they've basically tripled their footprint across that between Q1 and Q4. And they said it's improving sales growth for franchisees and unit economics, but they didn't go on beyond that. What did I take from that? Well, even once you've got the insights, you need to do something with it, and that those insights need to be integrated into your operations. So even companies like Yum take a while to be able to use insights. And so everyone, I guess the message is this: technology investment is not just about customer interfaces, it's about everything all the way through your system, but also it doesn't have to happen all overnight. If companies like Yum are talking about these things just last year, it shows us that we've got a great journey ahead of us for everyone in this space. Okay, let us move on to question number 3. Convenience is driving buyers more towards online grocery versus COVID, according to a recent survey, Meredith. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I thought this was fascinating because I think many of us have the perception that much of this delivery and off-premise behavior is caused by COVID. And in particular, as we have spikes of different variants coming through, that it sort of, keeps us, for safety reasons, using delivery and off-premise. And I think to some degree that's true. And certainly the more of these variants we have and the longer this goes on, the more that behavior becomes ingrained in us. But what the survey pointed out is that the motivation for a lot of people using it is the convenience of it. And while maybe they learned the behavior initially during those first few months of COVID when we were all afraid to go anywhere, they've kept doing it. In particular, older cohorts have continued to do it. And that when you ask them why they're doing it, they're not saying it's for health and safety reasons. So all of these things, I think, point back to what we often say, Carl, which is that the pandemic didn't cause these things. It just accelerated them. And as consumers are exposed to new and better ways of doing things, maybe initially caused by the pandemic, they find it really is easier and they adopt them for the long haul. All right, final question. McDonald's and Panera filed trademark NFTs for the metaverse. I don't even know what all of those words mean.
It's about time we got into this one, right? Because it's becoming more and more part of everyday news. Two different approaches. McDonald's are talking about creating a virtual restaurant in a different sense, not virtual brand, but a virtual restaurant where you can order food within your metaverse. Now, I don't know whether you're a gaming type, Meredith, but for those of us that love to be in front of the PlayStation and you get those pangs of hunger come through to you, the last thing you want to do is take the headphones off, put the console away and go and sort your food out. And that's why pizza is often affiliated to gamers, right? It's like, get it quick. So imagine you're in the middle of the game and you're actually able to walk up to a McDonald's restaurant and use your special virtual currency through that game to then order a Big Mac and fries and have it delivered to you in the real world. Wow, this is amazing, right? I love it. So that for me is really what it's about. Now, metaverses are going to exist beyond just the gaming environments. I think they're going to exist in numerous different ways, but it gives you a good example of how that is the way in which McDonald's are trying to get that representation in these different metaverses. Panera's approaching it in a slightly different way. They're thinking about it as a digital currency of sort, something they're calling the Paneraverse, where virtual food and beverages can be purchased. And for me, it's really just about a number of these big brands, even outside the world of food, trying to tie up real estate for non-fungible tokens, NFTs, in this growing world of the metaverse. You know, George Hansen, the chief digital officer of Panera, said, imagine those buying the Ronald McDonald NFT, giving you access to discounts, company events, almost gamifying the way to be able to tie this engagement, this kind of fun between you and a particular brand. So it's another way in which loyalty, I think, is going to come through to allow people to think about restaurants, order food, and actually feel like they have a stronger connection to restaurants, but in a very different way to any of us have ever experienced before. Okay, well, wow, that's another Monday Minute out of the way. Hopefully everyone found that interesting this week. As always, we'd love to hear your questions, your comments. What do you think about this slightly different format this week? We'd love to get your thoughts around that. But as ever, please leave your comments below, and we look forward to seeing you next week for another Monday Minute. The Monday Minute is available for you to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. Watch us on YouTube and follow us on all our social media Learn Delivery channels. Thanks for listening.